So, welcome to another episode of Abu Dhabi Talks. Abu Dhabi Talks is a show which connects the community of Abu Dhabi to you. We bring to you online the experiences and stories of life, businesses, and the capital news, among others. And with me tonight are my lovely co-hosts, Freya Jafar and Sana Diab.
Hi.
Hey.
So our topic today is about cyberbullying, and we have here with us EMKWAN, who is an Abu Dhabi-based YouTuber and social media content creator. He is widely known for his technology and lifestyle videos. His YouTube channel has over 111,000 subscribers with over 26 million video views. He regularly gets his hands on early tech from brands like Apple, Huawei, and others. So welcome with us, EMKWAN.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
I
Really
envy
nice
that.
to have you here.
Yeah, I envy that about you. You actually get these things first before it comes out in the market.
Yeah, I mean, like it's yeah. So companies normally send it because they want sort of coverage and other stuff. So yeah, quite a lot of products get sent first early to me, but a lot of people assume that I get to keep them, which isn't the case. So normally I have to return them. Yeah.
Really?
I know it's like wow, you have to return it? Yeah. Majority of cases, yeah.
Today we've got a really timely topic, and that is social media cyberbullying. Now we want to discuss with the types of cyberbullying and the effects of cyberbullying, and particularly as somebody like him who is very well known among YouTubers, and you're sort of running so many platforms yourself. And I think like people like you feel it at a much larger scale than users of platforms. So the whole discussion is about, what's happening now, how it's challenging within quarantine time, how it's kind of escalated, hasn't it, tension. So just want to know, what are let's start by talking about what we think are the types of cyberbullying at the moment.
So I guess, I mean, in my experience, what I do is I put myself out there. So the type of cyberbullying that I'm going to get is very different to the types that, let's say, I don't know, 14-year-old might get, or, Freya might get, for example. I think when we put ourselves out there, we are inviting criticism. I mean, there's no two ways about it. My platform, because I'm much broader than just locally Abu Dhabi or the UAE. In fact, most of my viewership on YouTube comes from the United States, for example. And that's one market. So the whole kind of the crowd that you can get there and exposing yourself to that wider crowd, international crowd, it means that the cyberbullying, when it happens, is on a different kind of level. Sometimes it's legitimate in the sense that it can be a criticism that can be a fair criticism. Oh, you were wrong about this phone, or you were wrong about the way that you presented that review, or something like that. But when it spills over into a kind of like, oh, look at this brown guy, what does he know?
It becomes personal, yeah.
Yeah, then it becomes personal. Oh, I found out about this guy, he lives in Abu Dhabi. Oh, he must have oil money, that kind of, and then the whole string of the assumptions that are made about that. So there's that kind of level of cyberbullying, which, I'm not saying that it's better than, I think all cyberbullying is wrong, full stop, but it's a slightly different scenario, because when you put yourself out there, as I do, I have to be prepared for the criticism that comes. I think the big problem is when people fall into the cyberbullying situation where they're not purposely putting themselves out there. So let's imagine, a 15-year-old schoolgirl who isn't making her Insta stories or her TikTok videos public, but within the group and the circle of friends that she has, there's cyberbullying taking place there. So it's a slightly different one. I think that's actually that can actually sometimes be more harmful in some ways, because the person, or it's within a group that you might not know the person, but it can still have a more direct impact, particularly when you're not prepared. I've grown a thick skin because I've been doing this over a couple of years now. And I remember getting my first troll message at the beginning,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
like, oh my god, you know, that kind of
How
like
did that
slightly
feel?
shook me up.
The first one is horrible, isn't it?
First one is absolutely horrible because you start questioning. You know, I think somebody made a comment about. I think it was something physical. It might have been my hairstyle, or yeah, I think it was something to do with my hair.
Somebody
And I was like,
criticize your hairstyle?
yeah, it was kind of like it was. I don't know. It was a comment that was made, and it was so small and minute, but it kind of made me like, oh gosh, you know. And I remember looking into the mirror and thinking, really, you know, like I suddenly became very self-conscious about that. And then there were comments. I have slightly chipped, broken nails from childhood, and that always gets sort of brought up in videos as well. Sometimes, oh, look at
Really?
this, you know. So yeah, there's slightly small
Unbelievable.
things like that that somebody can make as a comment, but obviously over time I just developed a thick skin. Now, I mean, some of the comments, to be fair, actually the comments haven't been really bad recently. I don't know what's changed in the last sort of 18 months or so, but prior to 18 months ago, some of the comments were borderline racist.
Oh,
And, you know, they were quite sort of xenophobic and other stuff. I don't know, I've developed a thick skin, so I'm okay with it now. But
I was gonna
I think
I
it's
mean,
ask you,
kind of,
cyberbullying is
how do
they're
real.
you,
rude.
yeah, how do you deal with that then? You know, when, because you're doing tech videos. So how did you deal with, you know, criticisms about hairstyle and nails?
Yeah, because unrelated, isn't
Well,
it? It's completely
I know.
it's
unrelated
completely
topic.
unrelated. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it was a criticism about the styling of video,
Yeah.
you're wrong about this spec, or you're wrong about that stat, or something like that, that would be understandable. But yeah, when it becomes quite personal, it's a weird. I don't know how I got over it. I think it's just I think it's a matter of just deciding that that comment can, you know, I mean, it's a single comment from. Okay, in my mind, if a comment comes in from somebody that I don't know, I think I'm less affected by it because I don't know that person. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if my wife made a comment or somebody that I knew made a comment, oh, that whole presentation was terrible. Why did you do that to your hair? I think I'd be like, oh, really? But I guess being online has meant that I've developed a thick enough skin that it can actually impact me in the real world as well sometimes. Sometimes that can be a bit of a detriment because if you get criticized, sometimes it just goes through one ear and out the other, even when it can be a helpful criticism, for example. So I don't know. I mean, but I've spoken to a lot of content creators. There are YouTubers with millions of subscribers that I know personally, and a lot of them have said the same. They've said that there's a point at which when you're growing online, there's a fine point at which some people, they just can't deal with it, so they just drop off, and then other people, they just develop this thick skin and they just plow on and just kind of ignore it.
So like now, you know, this is you sort of before. How do you find it now, sort of as a user of platforms as well? Like, let's talk about maybe Abu Dhabi and around here. Now that you're at home now for a bunch of weeks, how do you compare cyberbullying now in quarantine as compared to before?
I think quarantine has certainly done something with the kind of tone of posts, updates, messages. I've certainly noticed that. Whether it's on Abu Dhabi Q&A as an example, you know, I posted something up last week, and one of the things that really sort of stood out for me on that post was the tone that people were taking. There was no middle way sort of thing. It was either like, oh, you know, what's it got to do with you? Or it was like, oh, why are you, you know, what are you talking about? You know, it's kind of like there were these two extremes. I've certainly noticed that on Twitter because I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, you know, Instagram, Facebook as well. So I've noticed that across the board, it just feels like more and more people are short-fused, short-tempered.
What are your views on how sort of
Yeah.
the cyber laws here? What do you?
I look. I mean, as someone that uses social media platforms, as someone that, you know, I have to promote myself, but also promote brands and you know, services. I'm actually a big fan of the cyber laws here, and I know that it might come as a surprise to some people. I know when some people are looking in from outside, they think, oh, it's far too strict. But actually, I mean, I think we've moved along. Like the internet isn't where it was 5 to 10 years ago. This level of anonymity is actually a problem online. You know, this might sound a little severe, but maybe it's not such a bad idea for us to have to register a social media account with our official ID in whatever country, because why would
Yeah, I
you,
think
you
so.
know, why would you not do that? If I walked up to someone in public, let's say I walked up to you, Freya, and I didn't like, you know, the
My
tone of your
hairstyle.
foundation or your, yeah, or your hairstyle. I mean, I wouldn't say that to you in public. It doesn't matter if I'm here in the UAE,
Yeah.
in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or in London. It would be considered rude to just come up to you and say, you know what, that hair looks horrible on you, for example. You know, I mean, I wouldn't do that in the real world, but I could do that online.
Yeah.
So if I, you know, if I can do that online without fear of consequence, that doesn't make sense, you know, especially given how far social media has moved on now. I mean, most employers are going to do background checks. Even, you know, if somebody approaches me for a business proposal or something like that, I'm going to do research around them as well. So I don't know. I think the cyber laws here are, strong, and I think they're done in a way that manage it for everybody's sake. To be totally honest, yeah.
Did you feel that bullies are more from one gender or the other, or doesn't matter at all?
Well, as a guy and as someone who's like, majority of my if you like demographics are male, so I get it from the male element of it. But I've, you know, again, I've seen some females get really, even in my comment section. I think there was a product that I posted up. It was like a fitness tracker, and that was a really odd video because majority of the demographics there were females. It's a product that's both unisex. But I made a couple of comments that were quite critical about it. I think it had a pink band or something. And then some of the comments that came were like, oh, you know, what's wrong with pink? You know, that's quite a sexist thing to say, or gender biased thing to
Oh
say.
God.
And then what was really odd was there were a couple of people that were coming into my defense saying, well, he is a guy, and, you know, like if you follow him long enough, you'll notice that he likes certain colors, and he was complaining that this was the only choice with this fitness band. And then they kind of were like having a sort of cat fight there. So it was an interesting thing. But
how do you advise like people on social media want to come, how to avoid this kind of how to deal with the challenges of bullying, cyberbullying? How did you cope with it? It's easier to say, okay, just block it, I ignore it. But how do you not take that bait? You know, when you're really kind of into it, you know, your emotions and your passion go into your work, and how do you avoid the bait?
Well, I think, look, it goes back to the original point that I made. If you're deciding to put things public, if your accounts on whatever platform are not marked as private, then it's basically for consumption of the public. So I think more needs to be done. And we talk about this with young children. Oh, you know, 14-year-old girls need to be told about this, or 11-year-old boys need to be told that, you know, you shouldn't post certain pictures online. It's actually adults as well. All of us need to be aware that if you post something up and your account is not private, you are automatically opening yourself up to the public. And that means a whole range of situations, criticisms, you know, with stalkers, just a whole array of things. So I think that's the first step. You've got to be in your mind very clear about, when I hit that send button, am I sure that I'm ready for whatever's going to come after that? Sometimes you might just put a post up, which there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's not open to criticism or debate or anything like that. But still, you can be, oh wow, I checked this guy's profile picture out, and she's Asian or whatever, or she's of this background or that background, and then come the racial slurs, whatever. It's just, when you are public, you are gonna open yourself up to this.
That brings me to the question: which do you think is worse, cyberbullying or physical bullying? I have an answer to that.
Would you rather have a punch in the face or someone criticize your nails again?
I don't know. I think it depends for me.
And
It
as
really
adults and
depends where
kids.
is it coming from. Yeah, yeah. It definitely depends on how old are you and the importance of the person doing that to you, whether it's cyberbullying or physical. At the end of the day, physical is physical. You will heal from it. Obviously, maybe you can step away from that person, but cyberbullying, I feel sometimes can stick longer with you. I don't know. It depends. It really depends. I'm not
I
sure
mean,
what is worse.
the damage lasts
Yeah,
longer.
yeah. Maybe. I'm not sure. Although with physical bullying as well, or violence, there is also that, damage mentally.
Bullying is bullying, full stop. I think,
Yeah, yeah.
True.
physical bullying can, some people it can impact them more than, cyberbullying, for example. I think it really depends. I think bullying in all forms needs to be called out. And I think more of us
Yeah.
need to just remember to call it out when it does happen. I remember a time when my life wasn't online, but ask a 12-year-old, 10-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
this is life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like the difference between the school playground and the TikTok comments or notifications section is the fact that they actually spend more time or focus time in the notification section of that app than they would do even in the playground. I mean, that's just the dynamic shift. And I think sometimes, especially for Abu Dhabi Q&A members who are parents, whatever, you've got to remember sometimes that, like, in our heads, for us, bullying was in a different kind of realm. It can switch over to this online realm, which may hold more value to our youngsters than it does to us. We can say, oh, just turn your phone off, for example, put it down. And there's an element of truth behind that. But for a lot of young people, this is really the real world,
Yeah.
There's a really interesting tweet, and it kind of summed it up. A couple of months I read something along the lines that, we used to go online to escape the real world. Now we go offline to escape the real world, the online world.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's sad.
and it's,
Sad.
I don't know. I mean,
Really.
I'm a technologist, so for me,
No,
it's just
that's sad.
it's just the way it is. It's
See,
just
the
the way
thing,
it is. I think.
oh yeah, sorry. Okay.
No, I think it's just, I think it's really important to remember as grown-ups here, that what was important to us when we were young, and our parents would be like, oh, it's just making a big deal out of nothing. Like, we have to be careful not to do that now, because for young people, like, you have no idea the amount of people that come up to me, young people that say, oh my God, I want to be like you. Or I want to be, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, what is a YouTuber?
My son's a fan of M's as well. He's such a big fan.
Yeah,
There's another case.
Or like, people will come up to me, like on Instagram, for example, and they'll say, wow, you've got a blue tick. Like, it's nothing. It holds no value, no difference. It's just what people perceive it to be, but suddenly they think that you're some superstar, or like your life is different, or you're somehow benefiting from that. And it's not the case at all. So I don't know, it's a bit of a fine balance with cyberbullying. But I think I've had some horrendous cases of cyberbullying that's impacted young people, to a point that, can be quite sad and difficult. It affects everybody, but I think young people take to it in a much more severe way than,
and they have.
There
There are documented cases of, young people who have really taken it to the extreme because they were cyberbullied.
Well, thank you, Em. It's been really interesting conversation. I enjoyed that, and it's been a long time since we've seen each other. I
know, it's been long. It's been, I don't know, 3 years. I think was the last time, or 4 years at the.
It was at
Mother
the
of the Nation.
Yeah, Mother of the Nation. Yeah. I think it was 2 years, but 2017. Goodness me, it is 3 years.
18, 19, 20. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Because you hadn't had your second baby, that's why.
Yeah. I think my wife was expecting at that time.
Yes,
but
that's correct.
yeah, hopefully after the quarantine, and once you guys have another meetup or something, inshallah, after this quarantine, then yeah, we'll make an effort. Yeah.
Inshallah.
Sure.
All right.
Happy to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Em.
So thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.